Earliest recorded reference of Jundial Temple is found in the writings of Flavius Philostratus, a Roman imperial historian. Philostratus cites a travelogue by Damis, who wrote it in his companionship in a journey with Apollonius, a Greek philosopher from the town of Tyana, in which he mentioned visiting a certain Greek temple near the town of Taxila in 44 BCE. Based on the details of the temple given by Damis, Philostratus believed it to be the Jundial Temple, situated in Taxila, Pakistan. Jundial has been an archaeological enigma since its excavation in 1912 by Archaeological Survey of India under the supervision of Sir John Marshall. A massive semi-classical Greek temple, thousands of miles away from Greece among the ruins of Gandharan civilization in Taxila, in Indian subcontinent, would definitely perplex anyone. Its impressive size and commanding position hints that, at that time, Greek religion might be of national importance or even the state religion of this part of the subcontinent. The architectural features are purely like that of Greek temple. However, the temple's relation with the religion of its builder is still obscure. Renowned archaeologist Dr. Ahmed Hassan says the Jundial Temple was found at the same place where Alexander the Great erected his tent. So far, this is the only structure resembling a Greek temple plan in the entire subcontinent. The Hellenistic era of Greek colonization started after the death of Alexander the Great in 250 BC. A bactrian-Greek kingdom was established in Bactria and Sogdiana in Central Asia on the easternmost boundary of the Greek occupation. Later, this empire expanded into present-day Afghanistan and Pakistan and gave birth to another Greek dynastic rule known as Indo Greek Period, which started from 180 BC and ended in around 10 AD. On visiting the site, you find Jundial Temple standing on a relatively higher ground. Greek temples were built on a height to make them visible from the distance, unlike the Roman temples, which were part of a planned town and more emphasis was given to their frontal beauty. Jundial is roughly 650 meters north of the northern gate of the Sirkap, the second capital of Taxila. After the discovery of Taxila in 1863 and the supervision of Alexander Cunningham, another structure he found at Mohra Maliara, some 1,000 yards away from Jundial, now in ruins, was very much similar to Jundial in plan and style, having the same Ionic columns. After finding some 12 coins of Aziz beneath the base of a column, Cunningham dated Mohra Maliara from the Indo Greek period. The stylistic similarity convinced him to lay them both in the same era. Later, Sir John Marshall denied this idea by associating them from the Shakas era. Later in 1951, in his postscript, Marshall says the walls of Sikap and Jundial both have the same chronology dating to the Indo Greek era. Jundial has a 45 by 30 meters rectangular plan. It's constructed with coarse rubble masonry, walls once had a stucco plaster, and the molding is done in conjure stone. As in a typical Greek architecture, it's composed of a naos, a central chamber that houses idol of a deity, a pronaos that is lying in the front of the naos, reduced by the extension of the side walls of the naos, with two columns in the front and a smaller room, opisthedomos, at the back of the naos. To enter the temple, first you will pass through a frontal porch, which is preceded by an antechamber. Both at the outer and the inner ends of the antechamber, both Ionic columns are erected in the center, flanked by two Ionic pilasters. The inner sanctum contains a larger platform which is 1.66 meter high and 2.43 meter wide. Left, right, and back side of this whole construction is further enclosed within a porch, having windows or doorways, known as peristyle. Like all Greek temples, Jundial Temple is also divided in 3 levels. The first level is the crepidoma, which is the ground that provides the surface on which the columns and walls are placed on stylobate. At the second level are the columns, while the third level is composed of the entablature. The columns and pilasters of the antechamber once supported architrave. Between naos and opisthedomos, there is this huge square mass of stone. On one side of the opisthedomos are stairs leading up to the square. Analyzing this mass of stone, many researchers linked it to different creeds. According to some, it was used to place a fire altar. At the time of the Greek supremacy in Bactria, Greeks absorbed some of the elements of the Zoroastrian religion. Discussing religious character, Marshall criticizes that there is a total absence of image or idol within the temple, and its plan is also different from the plan of any typical Jain, Buddhist, or a Brahmanic temple present on Indian soil. For him, this is a square, solid mass of masonry with a foundation of about 20 feet below the temple floor was constructed to support certain heavy superstructure. In his hypothesis, this massive square would have served as a base for a tower tapering-like ziggurats of Mesopotamia, constructed of large bricks laid in mud. That's why he called it Zoroastrian Temple. Behrendit has slightly different view regarding the religious nature of Jundial. Referring to Cunningham's research work, he writes that Cunningham found some plaster images from the Mohra Malaria and identified them as Buddhist, as they had curly hairs and hands in the lap or were raised in the attitude of teaching. So according to him, both Mohra Maliara and Jundial are Buddhist shrines. In his view, this shrine was actually used as a direct access relic shrine and wasn't built for Vishnu or Zoroastrians. He says that relics were probably secured in the upper story from where they were taken in Sela for display. Rufus Samad in the Grandeur of Gandhara says it has to be the work of Indo Greek king Menander, who constructed it in around 165 BCE. If the construction is done under Menander, then one thing that is clearly mentioned in the classical Buddhist text, Milindapana, that he converted to Buddhism. He was also famous for being a great patron of Buddhism. His conversion could be the reason of the greco-Buddhist cultural syncretism which developed between 4th century BC to 5th century AD in Bactrian Indian subcontinent. Menander's love for his faith could have incited him to build a temple for his people in Taxila. Whatever the religious nature of Jundial Temple, one thing that all agree upon is the direct involvement of the Greek in its construction. The touch of the Greek artisan's hand in Jundial's construction is evident in its obvious resemblance to the Greek temples.